Hey guys, Chris here. In this video, I'm going to give you guys my short and quick review of the brand new Kia EV9. I only have this car for 2 hours, and in those 2 hours, I'm going to film 2 videos. So this is going to be a very short first impressions, but in this video, we're going to talk about the interior, we're going to talk about the exterior, we're going to talk about the driving experience and all the specs of the exciting new Kia EV9. Let's start off talking about the exterior of the EV9. This is a large full-size electric SUV with 3 rows of seating. It is more than 5 meters long. It is very close in proportions and in size to the Volvo EX90, but at a lower price. And I think this car does look really nice in photos and in videos, but in person, this is a very nice and interesting design. We have these really nice LED headlights. We have the cool star formation taillights. And I just think the angular style, the boxy style of this is, spot on. This is a large, huge, more of a traditional SUV when it comes to the design and the styling, but at the same time, it is very futuristic with all the angles, with all the sharp edges, but it still retains that boxy SUV shape. And even though this is a traditional boxy SUV design, it still has a very low drag coefficient of 0.28 CD. Those large exterior dimensions means that the interior also is big and roomy. As I said, this is a 3-row SUV, and I'm going to show you guys the second and third row in just a bit. But starting with the front cabin, it is very spacious and very roomy. It's wide, it's long, it's tall. You have plenty of headroom, plenty of elbow room. And just hopping into this, I felt like the center console and the armrest was, a little bit too far away, but you will get used to that. But that just is testament to how much space and room there is in this front cabin. Interior quality is okay. This isn't a luxury vehicle. So again, it's very comparable in size, exterior and interior when it comes to the Volvo EX90, but it isn't that expensive. And that is also reflected in the interior. So material quality is closer to something like a Kia EV6 than it is to a Volvo EX90, but that isn't necessarily a bad thing. You do have a few physical buttons, or actually a lot of physical buttons. You have, climate control buttons here, scroll wheel for your volume. You have a lot of steering wheel controls. You have regen. You have your gear selector here. And with the gear selector on the right side, they haven't replaced the wiper stock, so that is pretty nice. So, just practicality-wise, you have a lot of buttons. On the door here, you have your heated seats, ventilated seats, massaging seats, heated steering wheel, and then you have traditional window switches. You have an electric steering wheel column. You have a lot of buttons here. So overall, it is much more rugged, but also much more practical when it comes to the ergonomics compared to something like a Volvo EX90. And one thing I want to say before we hop into the rear seats is that this vegan leather that Kia have, developed for this car feels as nice as Nappa leather. I really would know that this wasn't real leather if they didn't tell me in the presentation of this car. Hopping into this second row, there is a lot of room here. Usually in these 3-row SUVs, you don't have a lot of knee room for the second row, but I mean here, I can cross my legs. This is super impressive. And also, headroom is plentiful, the cabin is wide. So before I took this car out, after the presentation, I was waiting for this car to be vacant because we're a few, car journalists or YouTubers, splitting these cars in between us. I sat at the dealer with one of the display vehicles, and a guy who's 2 meters tall sat here, and he had plenty of room. He had a lot of knee room, he had even headroom, and that is impressive. 2 meters tall is very tall. Also, again, you have more of this really nice vegan leather. You have fabrics here on the seat. Though, some of the switchgear and grab handles does feel a little bit low rent. That is acceptable because this is a lot of vehicle for this price point here in Norway. Fully spec'd with all the options. This car starts from 900,000 kroners, and from that you have 2 options. I think you have the 7-seater or the 6-seater, and then you have a trailer hitch. So that's impressive. Rear doors super large. You also have blinds here for the rear passengers, which is manual. I mean, it's a little bit fiddly to operate, but at least you have them. So yeah, this is pretty, okay, a little bit fiddly to operate. But you get a lot of equipment here. Heated and cooled seats here in the rear for the 7-seater. That is pretty impressive. With a 6-seater, you have like a, you know, a drawer here you can pull out. You have cup holders here. There's a lot of room and practicality. Now let's take a look at the third row. To enter the third row, there is a button up here that lets the whole second row seat slide forward. This lever here is to make this go flat so you can load stuff into the trunk. I'm not going to do that because if I do that, I can't get it up without, you know, putting down the camera. I'm doing everything one-handed, and it should illustrate, you know, how easy or hard this is. Bear in mind though, there is ice underneath my feet, so it's not very easy for me to do this. But press that and then you slide the whole thing forward like that. It locks into place. I could also press this and then slide it back, and it's a little bit hard to do it, so I don't think children would have an easy time doing that. For me it's hard because again I am on ice, but it's not too bad. So let's slide this forward, and there's a lot of room here. I mean, this gap here is really big. This is tall, and also the door opens up super wide. Take a look at that. So let's hop into the second row. You know, the step up height isn't too bad. And once we're here, there is actually decent headroom and also shoulder room. So sitting 2 adults here abreast, no problems at all. And also all the outboard passengers in this car do get their own cup holders and also USB-C ports. So that is pretty nice. And yeah, and also you have a lot of light in here. These rear three-quarter windows let in a lot of light, so it doesn't feel claustrophobic. And also the seat back here is electrically adjustable. So that is pretty nice. So you can recline the seat back. This middle sunroof here, which is a fixed unit, lets in a lot of light into the second row. And you also have a second row climate control there for the second row passengers. All the way up front, you have a sunroof that's glass that you can actually open. So no opening panoramic sunroof, and your only panoramic sunroof is here in the second row. So if I want to put this seat back, I'll have to slide it. But I'll have to maybe stop it in its tracks here, because when it comes down, it does slide way back like that. Okay, so I think that's just about comfortable. I could sit here for maybe 20-30 minutes, no problems at all. This is comfortable, this is pretty fine. And then in the second row, I think I would have no problem sitting in front of me. We tried this at the dealer with the same guy who is 2 meters tall, and he actually had room in the second row if he put his, you know, his legs outboard of the front seat. So if you're a normal adult like me, you know, 5'10", 178 centimeters, or you're 6 foot, I think a 6-footer behind a 6-footer would have no problems at all in the second and third row of this EV9. Now let's take a look at the trunk, and if we press the button here on the right side of the rear view camera, this opens up electronically, and then you have this room behind the third row. This is about 350 liters, and then you can fold these flat with these buttons here. They are electrically adjustable, and the headrest should fold down just in time. So you can, you know, put these up or put them down with this button. And then you have this large trunk here behind the second row. This is actually pretty impressive. Another thing I want to show you guys, this also, you can lock the car from here. You can close the tailgate. A lot of room. This car is very roomy. I'm going to show you this. The door sills actually cover the door. So that means in winter, this does not get dirty. So when you drag your feet or your pants along, you know, the sill here, they don't get dirty. I'm just going to move my camera back here a little bit. Here you can see all the seat controls. This does have the seat that can go flat. You know, when you're charging, you can lay down and you can sleep and stuff like that. So that is really nice and practical. Just going to step in here. Step up height is pretty decent. The ground clearance is 177 centimeters, and it does not have air suspension, though it does have adaptive dampers, but you can't, you know, adjust the suspension up and down. And talking about suspension, this video is actually sponsored by Elton, which is the best charging app in the Nordics, Norway, Sweden, Finland, and Denmark, because one charging app with one charging interface and one payment method lets you charge at almost all charge point operators in all of these countries. It will work in Norway, Sweden, Finland, and Denmark. And I just used this app on my trip to Finland a few weeks ago, and it works flawless. Even if you're not using the app to pay, you can still find all of the chargers, because it has all the chargers that work with the Elton payment app or the chargers that do not. All of these are in the app. So it just gives you a nice overview. It will show you real time, if the chargers are vacant, the speeds, and all of that juicy, nice information. So if you want to support the channel, go to the link in the description box down below and download the Elton charging app from there. Now let's take this car out on the road and I'll tell you what it is like to drive. So in the intro, I told you guys that I'm going to film 2 videos, but yeah, I don't have time to film 2 videos. I thought I was going to be able to film 2 videos, but just so you know, it's just going to be 1 video. So immediately you do, feel and are pretty aware of the size of this car, because it is big. You sit high up. The passenger door is so far away, and when you look in the rear view mirror, the rear window is really far away. It also has, this flat hood where you can see the edges of the car. For me, that is very assuring. I feel I have very good control of the size, the width, the wing mirrors and everything is very square, very angular, and that means it's easy to see, the corners of the car, front, back, and side to side. Everything is just really nicely laid out when it comes to visibility. So it's great to drive. And when you have that in a big car, it's not a problem that it is big. I've driven smaller cars with poor visibility, and they're not nice to drive because of that. So we're on my normal test route here right outside of Oslo, and we're going to take a right down here on a road that traditionally, upsets a lot of cars. Again, this car is not on air suspension, so it may, not be the most wafty, but it's still on adapted dampers. We are on large 21-inch wheels, but pretty high profile for being this wide of a tire. I think they're 255, 45, 21, so you have a bit of profile, and always remember that the profile is a percentage of the width. So if these tires were 295 and the profile was 30, that's not the same height as 45 on 255, so just be aware of that. I worked with wheels and tires for a lot of years, so that's ingrained to my head. But driving on this normal suburban road, the asphalt here is smooth, that's why I like driving here, but there's also a lot of undulations in the road that upset a lot of cars, where you have bump after bump, and cars can handle 1 bump, but 2 and 3 bumps consecutively often upsets the suspension and the balance of the suspension in a lot of cars. But I'm not noticing anything here yet. I'm feeling the bumps and undulations. This section here is usually a little bit of upset, and then another upset, and then a third one here, and then the 4th one, and then you have another one here, and then the last one before it goes flat. And this usually is a section of road that cars that aren't set up very well, they just keep skipping. The car never settles down, but the body control in this car, and remember this is a large SUV, is very impressive. And then we have a speed bump here, which is more of an abrupt, bump that, tests just the dampening. And it does feel taut. It does feel, quite tautly set up, and that also gives it, that body control. It's not uncomfortable, and I'm not able to test this car in the city, but we have a few manhole covers here that just seem to be, filtered out. Oh my God, they've crashed here with 2 Porsches. A Taycan Cross Turismo crashed into the back of a Cayenne. Oh, that's a bad day. That is a bad day. It's slippery outside, guys, so be careful. We do have plus degrees here in Oslo, but that means that the snow and ice is melting, and once that freezes, you have, ice, black ice. So that can be pretty hard to navigate. But yeah, this car is pretty nice. So I think we're gonna, we've driven it enough on this test road. I think I want to try to take it out on the motorway. I have a little bit of time, and see how it performs at higher speeds, quiet, and comfort. We're now doing a steady 100 kilometers an hour, and I have to say that this car is impressively quiet. This does have double glazed windows. We are on winter tires, but still, yeah, this is impressively quiet. This has to be almost as quiet as something like an Audi Q8 e-tron, or more quiet than a Mercedes EQE. And that brings me to the interesting thing about this car. A lot of people are like, oh yeah, it's a lot of money. It's 900,000 kroners for a fully spec'd Kia. I think it's interesting to compare this car to the premium brands that are a little bit smaller, like the Q8 e-tron, BMW iX, or the Mercedes EQE, because when it comes to drivability, this car is almost as quiet as those cars, almost as comfortable, and offers a lot more room, a lot more space. It's a very interesting proposition. If you don't care about the badge, if you don't need the latest in luxury, I think this is a very, very interesting car. It does have a lot to offer. So the size, the battery pack. I mean, this is almost 100 kilowatt hours, this battery pack. Usable capacity is something like 95, 96 kilowatt hours. We don't know yet, that's speculation. But all being said, this huge cabin, getting this levels of quiet and comfort, and yeah, some level of luxury, is a very, very impressive package at this price point. The EV9 is a very interesting electric car in a segment that yet isn't filled with a lot of legacy manufacturers. So I think Kia, late to the party, or maybe even early to the party in this segment when it comes to a large electric SUV, but late to the party when it comes to the world economy. At least here in Norway, sales of electric cars at this price point and higher has slowed down a lot. But again, there hasn't been an offer from an established brand like Kia with their reputation for quality and design and drivability at this price segment in this package with 7 or 6 seats. I think this car fits a lot of what a lot of families are looking for, and me personally, I think it's great. It looks awesome, it's nice on the inside, it's comfortable, it's quiet, and it offers a lot. But it remains to see how much range this car has in the real world, because it's currently the end of November and cold outside, and I don't have the opportunity to do a range test today. We'll do that in January. So guys, let me know what you think down below of the Kia EV9. Do you like it? Don't you like it? If you like it, why? If you don't like it, tell me why. So there we go, guys. I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, please drop me a thumbs up down below, and for more car content, as always, please subscribe. See you guys later, and goodbye.